In these changing times, the water that flows across our land should remind us of the necessity of water and the value of life itself. However, too often the running water is filled with reminders of human life and the impact our choices have had on the earth. This is the story of one watershed and the project that has started in hopes to make a difference. Each of us live in a watershed, and everything we do on the land affects the quality of water in that watershed. A watershed, by definition, is simply an area of land where the water flows to one common body of water. Unique in name, the Indian Kentuck Creek lies in the heart of southeastern Indiana. The water that flows into the creek comes from over 97,000 acres across Ripley, Switzerland, and Jefferson counties, forming the Indian Kentuck Watershed. Being one of the first creeks in Indiana to obtain English settlers, its path tells a story of our history and the impact the New World has had on our water and land. In the late 1700s, the land and creek was different from what we see now. Through time, the watershed area that was once almost completely wooded now has many different land uses. Today, only 65% of the land remains in forest, and the rest is cultivated crops, pasture, haylands, grasslands, wetlands, open areas, and communities. The communities include Benham, Cross Plains, Canaan, Bryansburg, China, Manville, and Brooksburg. With this change in land use over the years, the water quality of the Indian Kentuck Creek has declined in nature. When we look at the creek, we should see our heritage, our history, and our way of life. But instead today, when we look, we see trash and debris washed from our lands. When a large rain comes, we can see muddy waters filling the creek with sediment. Things that we cannot see, but that our studies have shown are present, are increased nitrogen, phosphorus, and E. coli in the water. These new concerns are ones our ancestors did not face, but are concerns that cannot go unnoticed if we are to have healthy water for our future. In 2010, citizens and landowners came together to form a steering committee that would address the pollution associated with the rigorous use of the land. A grant was awarded to the Jefferson County Soil and Water Conservation District to create a management plan for the watershed. The Soil and Water Conservation District acquired the help of historic Hoosier Hills to oversee the development of this plan.
We had residents from the Indian Kentuck Watershed. We had folks from many different organizations, including the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, NRCS, the Historic Hoosier Hills, and we all come together, and there was many other groups also, by the way, but we all come together and decided that, you know, this was an important objective to try to reach to improve the water quality within that watershed. So we had decided to go ahead and do a study, which is the Watershed Management Plan, which we have been working on for the last 2 years. So we're about completed with that study, and we're ready to move forward, hopefully with implementation within the next 1 to 2 years.
Through the development of the management plan, we found areas of non-point source pollution that plague our watershed. Tillage on croplands, vacant croplands in the winter months, livestock in the water bodies, poor septic systems, lack of buffer areas to creeks and tributaries, trash and debris.
60 years ago, throughout even up to 40 years ago, the common practice in the country was the fact that you'd have dumps. And it was just a community dump. It'd be in a county road someplace, and it would be right off the edge of the creek. And because the one thing you could always get rid of, once you had a heavy rain and the creek got up, it washed out most of the garbage that was thrown in there to start with. So that was a common practice.
Upon completion of the management plan, funding will be sought after to provide technical assistance and education as the second phase of the project to improve upon these problems.
These are sometimes called best management practices, and they're used to target resource concerns. Some of the resource concerns that the committee and stakeholders identified within the Indian Kentuck Watershed Management Plan were sedimentation, excessive nutrients, E. coli levels, and poor water quality in general.
Cost sharing to install best management practices, or BMPs, will be available to landowners to correct some of the non-point source pollution from their lands. Some of these practices may include cover crops, grassed waterways, exclusion fence, pasture and hayland seedings, heavy use area protection pads, alternative watering for livestock, and conservation tillage.
Waterways is a contributing factor to slowing down whatever erosion is coming off that field, and it's primarily when you have a lot of HEL topsoils where waterways are needed to be in place. We didn't ever understand the fact that most of our erosion actually comes from snow melting and that type of use during the winter months. So waterways, putting them in place, getting them tiled correctly, trying to dry those valleys out has helped tremendously.
Education will be available for both our youth and adults, including student presentations on water quality and adult programs on conservation practices and septic system maintenance. Stream and roadway cleanups will take place to help clean out the trash and debris that is collected over the years. Other outreach through the media and newsletters will take place, encouraging homeowners to take minor steps to improve the water quality, including recycling, following directions on chemical labels, leaving lawn clippings in place, landscaping around homes to help retain the rainwater, and simply thinking about the effects their actions have on our watershed. The Indian Kentuck Creek is one of the area's most precious resources, and its beauty and serenity should be preserved. For over 300 years, this watershed has gone through many changes, and the water that flows across the land carries the story of those who have come before us. It is now time to create a new story, a story for the future, a story of healthy water, and a story of a better way of life.